welcome back to the Commissioner's Report. Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing promotes Polk County as both a vacation and sporting event destination. Here today to share their mission and information about some really exciting new projects are Commissioner John Hall and Mark Jackson, the Director of Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
Good to be here. It's an honor to be here, Tricia. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, tourism and sports marketing, how does that help with economic development?
Well, it's really a good question. We were talking off camera a little while ago, and tourism and sports are economic development. In fact, tourism is our state's #1 industry. Sports is #2, believe it or not. Oh. So yeah, it's a significant contributor to our economic climate. But the difference is, with tourism and sports, they're classified as exports. Well, how can that be? It's like an oxymoron. Because, well, no, you have to really look at the flow of money. And when you look at the flow of money for tourism and sports, people are literally driving here and dumping bucket loads of money off in Polk County. Well, it's like your own household. The more money that comes in, are you better off? Or are you better off just circulating the same money around in a pot? So that's the difference. So what you're looking for in economic development is new money coming in, and what's called the velocity of money within the community. In other words, how fast it moves around the community, the rate of business, if you will. So tourism brings in new dollars. Those dollars are then spent, respent, and respent again. So it creates an enormous amount of jobs here, 21,000, over 21,000 to be exact, in Polk County. According to the Central Florida Economic Development Council, or CFDC, it's our county's #1 industry, right up there with agriculture and mining. But if you take a look back, when the CFDC started in 1985, well, the two main industries here were mining and agriculture. Well, two huge freezes, backed up the citrus industry for years, and then the phosphate industry went from 18,000 employed down to 3,000 employment. And so we were stuck. And so that's why the CFDC started up, but part of that was adding tourism and sports marketing a little bit later to augment the economic development efforts. And that's how it all started.
Well, I know we're here because Commissioner Hall was talking about what's important to Polk County, and you were really excited about a lot of the present projects that are going on.
A lot of the present projects, yes, and some that are out into the future. Mm-hmm. We actually just got, all the commissioners just got a report from Mark and the staff out at Tourism and Sports, and it is really good. It looks like we're going to be setting ourselves up for a really good period of time in the future. Russ Mat Baseball, Tigers, we've locked in for a long period of time now. So we've got a developmental league and basketball. So there's a lot of things that are going on, and I just want to let Mark talk a little bit about Tiger Town and what that means and what all it brings in other than just the Tigers, and then. The RP Funding Center, the Developmental League, and Russ Mat Baseball in Lakeland, and the Winter Haven Fieldhouse, and Russ Mat Baseball there. One that's not on our list to even talk about is the baseball fields, or potential baseball fields, up in the northeast at our park up there. That will be 4 additional fields for Russ Mat Baseball also, and we're not talking small amounts of dollars. We're talking tens of millions of dollars coming into Polk County through these projects. So Mark, if you would, just elaborate a little bit on those projects for us.
Well, it makes it a little bit easy. Commissioner Hall was talking about the presentation. When you have a commission that is business-minded and understands the difference between profit and loss and how important it is to make sure that revenue comes in and into the county so the services can be provided, but making those expenditures as little of a burden on the taxpayers as possible, this commission understands that. They understand business. So the business of tourism and sports and economic development, arguably in my time here, we have a commission that is the best ever at understanding the business of the county and the business of business. With all of that said, we approach our business, there's two main goals, two main things we work at in tourism and sports. One is driving demand, okay, and you have to have demand, because when that demand comes in, those dollars are start to come in. So we have to market Polk County as a destination competing against the Tampas, the Miamis, the Orlandos, New York, Wisconsin, whatever it may be. So it's a very competitive market. It's not a monopoly. So it's competitive business. Well, the second side of our equation or objective is creating supply. And this is what the commissioners really understand. If you have a destination that doesn't have any reason for you to go there, are you going to go?
No.
No. So you have to have supply in place to make sure that people want to come and visit. And one of our biggest projects ever when it came to, or it is our biggest project ever when it came to economic development, was recruitment of Legoland. Well, 2 million visitors a year, 150 million in capital investment so far. Has that been a good investment? Yeah, big time. Well, you know, we have a partnership with them, and so it's been a success story. But back to the commissioner's comment about a request for capital improvement projects and the things we're investing on the supply side of things to get people to come here. Yes, Tiger Town has been a huge success. That has led to roughly 115,000 people going through in 6 weeks of spring training.
Wow.
Okay, and 55% of them are from outside the county, and the majority of those are from Michigan. Well, that ended up into a partnership up in Detroit where we have a presence in Comerica Park where the Tigers play all year round. We're on the billboards. We have a Visit Central Florida day or weekend in September. We have we have a kiosk in the stadium. We have electronic scoreboard. We're everywhere. Even Mr. Illich said to us one time, he goes, "Man, you guys are everywhere, all over Detroit." I said, "Well, thank you, Mr. Illich, but you know." So that's part of it. So although we tackle the spring training and generate roughly 65 million in economic impact from spring training, also the Flying Tigers are a presence here too when the Detroit Tigers aren't here. But what we're really after, where the big money is, are the tourists that are coming down from Michigan and including Detroit. That's where the big bucks are coming in. Mm-hmm. So that's a good one. The RP Funding Center.
Let me interrupt you there, if you don't mind. When you're saying that's where the big bucks are, what are we talking about in economic benefit to the county in dollars?
Well, just from spring training alone is roughly 65 million annually.
That's
wow.
That's impressive. That's worth bringing stuff in here, and that's worth the money that we put into the renovation of Joker Marchant Stadium.
Yes, sir. I mean, it absolutely is. And when you start seeing those dollars coming into this community, that pays the taxes. In fact, in taxes that get returned, we have 7% here in Polk County in terms of our sales tax. $27 million in state sales tax comes back to Polk County just because of tourism. It's roughly 17% of our total sales in Polk County. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Well, the RP Funding Center was another investment that Commissioner Hall and the rest supported. They got behind, and it has allowed us now to recruit bigger meetings, bigger conventions. It opened the door for us to recruit the Orlando Magic's G League, which stands for Gatorade, but it's their minor league franchise here, which has been a huge success. So that was the second project out of the big four that he was referring to. The second or the third one was out at Lake Myrtle. We have a huge project out there, and that's where we recruited Russ Matt Baseball, and that's where we recruited the Florida Youth Soccer Association which is the largest sports governing body in the state of Florida with 110,000 kids playing there.
Wow.
This is all part of economic development. And then, of course, the Chain of Lakes, the most recent ones that the commissioner was talking about, the Chain of Lakes facility, we're going to be tearing down the existing fields and building 4 brand new fields that are tournament friendly, because RusMat has grown from 185 now to 270 teams, more than 300 next year. The 87,000 square foot field house, which the commissioners were behind, they were pushing me on this one, you know, and because there's a lack of indoor space. And so indoor sports is a huge market. Well, the participation level in Winter Haven alone is at 67% of the national average when it comes to participating in indoor sports. Why? Because there's no indoor facilities. Now we've got an 87,000 square foot indoor facility. That's where the magic is going to train. So those are the 2 things that are happening there. We just opened up the Lake Myrtle, the new, which will be the new headquarters for USA Water Ski and Wake Sports, the Olympic Committee's governing body. And we're going to be, we just opened up a cable park there. That'll be their new museum and headquarters. And then a new stadium that the commissioners were thrilled about will be built at Lake Myrtle. And the reason it's going to be built at Lake Myrtle is because now we have the Tropics professional soccer team there. We just recruited the Pan American Lacrosse Association headquarters to Lake Myrtle. And so all these events and all this training is just continuing to fuel our local businesses, and you know, from restaurants to gas stations to whatever it may be. It could just be a dress shop. Doesn't, you know, as long as they're spending money, we don't care. And I'll tell you one thing, in sports, girls rule and boys drool. And the reason I say that is young female athletes spend twice as much as their male counterparts.
Interesting.
And they bring more people with them. So that's one of our target markets. The last project that I know is near and dear to Commissioner Hall's heart is there is a facility deficit up in the northeast quadrant, up in the Poinciana, Davenport area. And part of what the strategy is and what the commissioners really support, I can't speak for Commissioner Hall, but I know he does, is that when we build these facilities in partnership with the municipality, the citizens benefit too, because now they have world-class sports facilities that they benefit from. The kids can play on them, they can play on them. So who wins? We all win with this strategy. Well, the Northeast Regional Park already has 6 soccer fields up there, all turf. We're building 4 turf baseball fields, and RusMat will be using those as well. So it's baseball in Polk County, amateur baseball, not the Tigers or any of that. So it's a $50 million a year business. And this all goes into, we've got more demand than we can handle. And with all of that said, you know, we have to build new supply. That's what the commissioners got behind, and that's what's going to generate even more revenue for Polk County.
And let me back up to a couple of things that Mark had said. Wakeboarding out at Lake Myrtle and the new cable park. Wakeboarding is going to become an Olympic event, and lacrosse is going to become an Olympic event. So in the very near future, when we have those 2 events up and running in Polk County, we will be able to hang the Olympic rings on the Lake Myrtle Park. So it's really exciting when you consider that this is what's going to be happening in Polk County.
Well, it's easy to see why you wanted this topic. You are really excited about this, and thank you so much. Now we know a little bit more about what's going on and what's coming.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here, but if I would have known I was sitting next to Mr. GQ here, I would have dressed up a little bit, but I didn't, but it's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Commissioner's Report.